also a fact that there's an order of magnitude more of these metals in the seabed than on land. For two reasons. 71% of our ocean, of our planet is ocean. So it's a huge area compared to the 29%, which is, the land. And we know nobody lives on the ocean, right? I mean, so when you look at the environmental and social impacts, you have an environment where we have not yet mined. So we have very high grade. And people don't live there, and the life that there is less. So from my point of view, in time, we can get to full circularity, but that's probably not for another 50 years. In the meantime, we need massive quantities. So shouldn't we get them where A, we have the biggest resource, B, we can do the mining with the least environmental and social impact, and C, we can do it with the lowest cost because we don't have to build new infrastructure, we reuse ships and ports, and our ore grade is so high. Like in the Clarendon-Clipperton zone, the nickel equivalent grade with the byproduct credits for cobalt, copper, and manganese is 3.2%. You don't find resources of this size, with this grade, with this cost, with this little environmental impact on land. And so I'm completely convinced we should do this. And when deep sea mining starts to scale, I think it will stop the need for land-based mines in nickel and cobalt, because they just economically won't be able to compete. We'll have by far the lowest cost.
Yeah, I think it can be a scary place for a lot of people. They don't have the level of experience I and my team have working in the DRC. I think for people that have worked there for many years, you get to understand the place. It's got its own idiosyncrasies. It's very important in the DRC that you abide by regulations, government regulations in respect to your mining rights, your exploration rights. You lodge your reporting in good time, those sorts of things. You dot the I's and cross the T's. I think that's very important. I think for a lot of people, there's a misconception when you invest in Africa that you can cut corners. In reality, the converse is actually true. You can't afford to cut corners. In Africa, if you cut corners, it'll come and bite you later. For us, we run a very tight ship. We abide by all the regulations.
So we're seeing Western government supporting life extension of their existing reactor fleet. That's leading to the increase in demand near term. But at the same time, we've been led by a broader supply disruption, or certainly concern. So you've had the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Russia is it's only about 6% of global uranium production, but it's about 40% of global enrichment. So key parts of that. Pakistan, which is on Russia's border, is about 40% of global supply. They export through Russia. So it's kind of created a degree of concern there from Western utilities, who are now looking to contract out for their new extended lives. And they're now sort of having additional incremental concerns about the supply security. At the same time, you had a coup in Niger, so impacted a significant amount of European supply of uranium to Orano.
A big valuation gap there. So again, to raise capital more efficiently, we started off in hard rock. So in a market where supply is super tight, majors will favor hard rock because it can come online much quicker. Lithium is a hard rock producer in Brazil, came online in 2023. It took 5 years to go from maiden resource to production, just to put things into perspective. Lithium Argentina, located in Argentina, of course, Lithium Americas, they took over a decade to go from maiden resource to initial production at their Cauchari-Olaroz brine project. So that puts things into perspective. You're talking double the amount of time. The barriers to entry for hard rock were also lower for us, as we were able to peg our own ground. We had expertise, we had targets in place. We were able to build up a vast portfolio. We are now one of Canada's largest grassroots lithium explorers, and we were able to assemble this vast land package for very, very cheap. Cheaper than most of our peers at about $7 a hectare.
Doing the right thing, being able to explore the way I described it earlier in terms of a systematic approach to exploration. That's the right way of doing exploration. Sadly and unfortunately, again, the market is impatient to go through that process. So you got to sort of come up with a happy balance. But to do it the way a major does is challenging because you're capital constraint. But if you have the right shareholders who are there to support you like we do, that gives us a chance to do things the right way. So if anyone going into the junior exploration space is wondering these things, that's going to be my biggest recommendation to them. hold off on professing that you've got the Holy Grail. Okay.
The deposits have to have scale to move the needle for the major mining companies. So we love testing targets that have got oversized sort of risk reward. We're very comfortable taking technical risk for a relatively modest amount of capital if the reward is potentially very large. So if we can drill a hole for $100,000 and test a target that's got the potential to deliver a tier 1 discovery, that's right up our alley, and we're really big believers in that sort of strategy. We also look at things like, can we acquire a district scale land position in a particular part of the world? So again, inflection, sort of conduit, this would be a great examples of that. On a large search space where we've got the potential to sit back a little bit and systematically explore a much larger area. We want to be able to own 100% of things with no third-party deals and no royalties. And these are all big, important points that the major mining companies look for. It's no good having a tiny land position and ultimately, a lot of underlying royalties and things like that. So these are big points as well.
Also in a very visual way. Technical, but at the same time, in fact based, but at the same time easy for people that are not from the industry to understand, because I think that's the other important part. And then, of course, for example, partnerships and collaborations. I think that is another important piece. There's so many organizations like Women in Mining around the world that companies can get together and trade or partner with. But then if you think as well of universities or schools, I mean, university is the best, maybe the first best ally, because thinking of people, that's a great place to recruit. So if people are well informed about the industry and well educated about the industry, there's more chance that they might even enter the industry and think of joining, right? At the same time as well, you can, for example, in our countries, we don't have a lot of careers of mining. So I think it might be a great chance as well to start and promote maybe that there is a start of that, of I don't know, mining engineering that we don't have, for example, right? I think there's a lot that you can do as well.
Is it improving?
Yeah, so that's a very topical one as well. Here in Australia, the government is about to publish for the first time the gender pay gap of every major company in the nation over a certain size. I think 100 employees or something like that. The UK does that already. Other countries, in Canada, I think, is thinking about doing it shortly. And it's interesting. So it's going to become topical. It'll be in the news in the next few weeks here in Australia. The gender pay gap is a measurement of something far deeper. It's taking a step back. Mining is still largely a club run by men of a certain demographic. You can probably name it, and importantly, the people in the senior leadership roles, therefore, are using what's normal, their worldview, their unconscious biases are cooked into the decisions they make. Interestingly, mining's missing out at a time when we need new perspectives, new ideas. We have to think about social license to operate, about new flow sheets, about new ways of operating a business. We're missing out on many different points of view. Now, the gender pay gap is just a way of measuring the lack of women in senior roles, right? If a company has more men in the high-paying positions than women, then there's going to be a pay gap. It'll be zero when women are just as likely to be in a senior high-paying role as a man is. It's as simple as that. And
using those line scan data to automatically segment sulfides. Now, of course, there are many challenges with this. Trying to segment sulfides in itself, just visually, can be very challenging. As a geo, I would know, trying to log the core, but even through the images themselves. So what we're looking to do is segment the sulfides, as in understand how much sulfide is there, and then also differentiate between the different types of sulfides. So, that could be disseminated, it could be massive, it could be vein sulfides. So we really want to understand the sort of spatial distribution of those sulfides as well. So with that, we looked at different clustering approaches, and then we looked and sort of settled eventually on k-means clustering. So as I said, there are quite a few challenges with this, one being the different the different types of sulfides, which I mentioned, the different ways they actually appear within the core sample, and how we go about sort of understanding what's actually there.